So, MemoQ and terminology videos. In this second video, I'm going to show you a problem that occurs when we input terminology and how we can avoid the problem, which is creating duplicates, through use of the entry ID field. Now, in the last video, we imported an Excel glossary, and we had 4 terms like this. Now, imagine that this person is creating this glossary and working with somebody else, and every day sends the terminology to be updated. There are 2 people working together and they've agreed to share their terminology. So this person updates their terminology and then sends it to the person using MemoQ, who then imports this to add to their terminology. And this is what happens when they do that. If we have a look at it, what we'll see is the good news is we've got the new entries, but we've actually repeated the other entries. And if we were to keep on doing this, we would get lots of duplicates or triplicates or quadruple entries. Now, in another video, we'll look at how we can deal with the duplicates. For now, let me just delete these quickly so we can go back to this situation. Now, let's go back now to the Excel. How could we handle this? The easiest thing is to create a new column and basically give each of these items a number, preferably correctly numbered. Now, let's go back to this again, and I should have removed these as well. So let's start with this new term base. I will also put a header because, as we saw in the previous video, and we'll now see again, it's much easier if we label the data. So let's start with this and just import it. What will be the difference between importing with these or not? Let's see. So let's import this. Import terminology. Now, in this case, this column has the English terms, and MemoQ can recognize that. This column has the Portuguese terms, and MemoQ has recognized that. What it hasn't recognized is what this column is. This column is not, of course, term data. It's another field. So we have to import it as another field. And let's have a look at the options we have. If we look down, we'll see there is one called entry ID. And that's actually what we want. It's essentially a number identifying the entry. So if we say OK, we now have 6 entries. And if we look, we have 6 entries. And at the moment, we don't seem to have any real difference. Let's come back over here and type 7 and 8. Save this. Now let's see what happens when we import this. So we import. Once again, MemoQ recognises the English and the Portuguese terms, and we have to say that this is the entry ID. We say OK. The terms are imported. We now have 8 entries, and if we look at the term base, we basically just have the 2 new items. When MemoQ imports the 8 items, it saw that 6 were already existing with the same ID, and they were the same, so it did not add those as well. It just added the items with new IDs. Now, imagine we decided to change this to this. Here, we don't have any new items, but we have 2 changed items. Let's see what happens when we import this. Again, we have to say what this is. You say OK. There's still 8 items, so we haven't actually added any new items. But what we now have done, if we look, we've changed these items. What's happened is that MemoQ has seen ID number 1, and it has actually seen ID number 1, 1 Uma, 2 Duas, and it has put these changes into the term base.